The great hall on Zarian Prime stretched out like a crystal cave. Light bounced off the walls in rainbow colors. Hundreds of alien beings filled the massive space. Some looked like giant insects with clicking legs. Others were made of living rock that glowed from inside. A few were just floating clouds of gas that changed colors when they talked. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked down the center path. Her black shoes clicked on the smooth floor. Every alien eye in the room watched her. She was the only human there. Her dark blue uniform looked plain next to all the bright colors and strange shapes around her. She had done this walk many times. Before, for 20 years, she had come to these meetings. For 20 years, she had tried to explain why humans did things the way they did. Today would be no different. Elena reached her small platform at the front. It was much lower than the others. The aliens always made sure humans sat lower. They said it was because humans were shorter. Elena knew better. High Counselor Zektar rose from his throne. He was a Zephyrian, one of the bug-like aliens. His body was as tall as 3 humans standing on top of each other. His 4 arms moved. As he talked, his voice sounded like metal scraping on stone. "We gathered today to discuss another human problem," Zektar said. His words echoed through the hall. "The Federation has provided peace drones to all worlds. These machines keep order. They stop wars before they start. But humans refuse to use them properly." Elena stood up. She had heard this before. "Honored. Counselor, we appreciate the Federation's technology. But humans believe in being ready for danger that the drones might not see." A sound like breaking glass filled the air. The Valdorians were laughing. They were the rock-like aliens. When they found something funny, they made that awful noise. Counselor Thexara spoke next. She was made of blue crystal that pulsed with light. "Ambassador Vasquez, your species has been in the Federation for 50 years. You still act like wild animals. You keep armies. You build weapons. You prepare for wars that will never come. We prepare because history teaches us to be ready," Elena said. She kept her voice calm. "My people have learned that peace comes from being strong enough to defend it." The floating Nethrim began to change colors. Red meant anger. Yellow meant they thought something was stupid. Right now, they were bright yellow. One of them spoke without a mouth. The words just appeared in everyone's mind. "Your history is the problem, human. You fight each other for thousands of years. You destroy your own planet. You bring this violence to space. We evolved beyond such things long ago." Elena had heard this speech so many times she could say it herself. But she tried again to explain. "Honored beings, humans fight because we learn to survive in a dangerous universe. We don't fight because we want to. We fight because sometimes we have to." More glass-breaking laughter from the Valdorians. More angry clicking from the Zephyrians. The Nethrim turned even brighter yellow. Zektar raised all 4 arms for silence. "Ambassador, we have been patient with your species. We allow you to keep some weapons. We let you maintain small armies. But now you want to build new ships with weapons we banned centuries ago." Elena took a deep breath. "The new ships carry defensive weapons only. They are designed to protect trade routes in the outer systems where the peace drones don't reach." "There is no need for protection where there is no threat," said Thexara. "The Federation has brought peace to this galaxy. Your human fear creates problems that do not exist. With respect, Counselor, we have seen things in the dark spaces between stars. Our scouts report movement. Ships that don't answer calls. Worlds that go silent for no reason." The Nethrim cloud grew larger and turned deep red. "You create fear with stories. You see enemies where there are none. This is why primitive species should not explore alone." Elena felt her hands tighten into fists. She forced them to relax. "We explore carefully because we know the galaxy is big and full of things we don't understand yet. Zektar's mandibles clicked rapidly. And this is exactly the problem. You assume danger. You prepare for war. You bring weapons to places of peace. Your paranoia infects other species. Our caution has saved lives, Elena said. Last year, when the mining colony on Kepler 438 lost contact, our armed ships found raiders attacking the workers. The peace drone saw nothing wrong. One incident does not justify permanent militarization, Thexara said. The light inside her crystal body pulsed faster. You use fear to excuse your violent nature. Elena looked around the great hall. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at her with expressions she had learned to read over the years. Disgust, pity, annoyance. They looked at her, the way adults look at a child who won't stop asking silly questions. She had spent half her life in rooms like this, explaining why humans built backup systems for their backup systems, why they trained soldiers even in peacetime, why they studied war even when they hoped for peace, why they never threw away weapons they hoped never to use. The aliens never understood. They always had the same answer. Humans were primitive. Humans were paranoid. Humans brought violence with them wherever they went. Zektar stood to his full height. His shadow fell over Elena like a dark cloud. Ambassador Vasquez, the Federation Council has reached a decision. If humanity cannot abandon its warlike ways, perhaps humanity should reconsider its place in this Federation. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. She had heard threats before, but never this direct. Honored Counselor, humans have been loyal members of the Federation for 50 years. We have followed all laws. We have paid all fees. We have helped build the peace you enjoy. A peace you constantly threaten with your weapons and your fears, Benethrim voice said in her mind. A peace you disturb with your violent preparations. Elena looked up at the towering aliens around her. She thought about the human colonies, spread across dozens of worlds. She thought about the human children learning alien languages and alien ways. She thought about the human scientists working to solve galactic problems. Then she thought about the reports from the deep space scouts, the missing ships, the silent worlds, the things moving in the darkness between the stars. The Federation will give humanity one final chance, Zektar announced. You will disarm your new ships. You will reduce your armies to police forces only. You will stop spreading fear about imaginary threats. Do this, and you may remain. Elena stood in the silence that followed. Every alien in the Great Hall waited for her answer. She had come here to explain, to make them understand, to find a compromise. But looking up at their faces, she realized something that made her very tired. They didn't want to understand. They never had. They wanted humans to become something they were not. They wanted humans to forget everything they had learned about surviving in a dangerous universe. I will take your words back to Earth, Elena said finally. The human government will consider the Federation's position. As she turned to leave, she heard Zektar's final words behind her. Your species clings to barbarism like children to warm blankets. Perhaps it is time the Federation reconsidered humanity's membership status entirely. Elena walked back down the crystal path. Her footsteps echoed in the Great Hall. Behind her, the aliens began talking among themselves in their various languages. She caught words here and there. Primitive, backward, dangerous. She had heard them all before. But as she reached the doors of the Great Hall, Elena made a decision that would change everything. She was tired of explaining. She was tired of justifying. She was tired of begging aliens to understand what humans had learned through pain and loss. Maybe it was time to stop explaining and start showing them instead. 6 months had passed since the meeting on Zarian Prime. Dr. Sarah Chun stood in her laboratory on Research Station Kepler 442. She watched the tiny organisms swim under her microscope. These creatures came from a moon that orbited a gas giant. In the outer rim, her Valdorian colleague, Kexanon, entered the lab. His crystal body clinked as he walked. "Dr. Chun, I need your analysis of the specimen growth patterns. The Council wants to know how you achieved such rapid cultivation." Sarah looked up from her microscope. She had spent 3 weeks figuring out how to make these organisms grow faster. The Valdorians had tried for months and failed. Now they wanted to know her secrets. "The organisms are growing well," Sarah said. She turned back to her microscope. Kex single quotes non-weighted. When Sarah said nothing more, his crystal body flashed yellow. "Dr. Chun, I need the specific methodology. What nutrients did you use? What temperature? Controls? What growth medium?" Sarah made some notes in her tablet. "The organisms are healthy and reproducing normally." "But how did you do it?" Kexanon's voice grew louder. "Your methods seem random. There is no logical pattern to your choices." Sarah finished her notes. She looked at Kexanon with calm eyes. "Is there anything else you need to know about the current specimen status?" Kexanon stared at her for a long moment. For 3 years, Sarah had always explained her work. She would draw diagrams and show him step by step what she was doing. Today was different. "I will report that you are being uncooperative," Kexanon said. Sarah nodded. "That is your choice. The daily status report will be filed at the usual time." Kexanon left the lab with angry flashes of red light pulsing through his crystal body. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening everywhere humans worked. Captain Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the UE's Endeavor. His ship was escorting a trade convoy through the Deneb sector. Commander Yexali of the Zephian Defense Force appeared on the main screen. "Captain Torres, your formation is inefficient," the insect-like alien said. His mandibles clicked rapidly. "Why do you position ships in such a scattered pattern? It wastes fuel and creates communication delays." Marcus looked at his tactical display. His ships were spread out in what looked like a random pattern. But Marcus knew exactly why each ship was where it was. "Formation acknowledged, Commander. We will maintain current positions." Yexali's forearms waved in frustration. "Captain, I am trying to help you improve your tactics. Your human methods are wasteful. Let me explain the proper formation for convoy escort." "Thank you for your concern, Commander. Current formation will be maintained. But why do you refuse to learn? Your ships move like they expect attack from all directions. The peace drones protect this sector. There is no threat here." Marcus kept his eyes on the tactical display. 3 years ago, he would have spent an hour explaining human convoy tactics to Yexali. He would have drawn pictures showing how scattered formations made it harder for enemies to target multiple ships. He would have talked about overlapping fields of fire and escape routes. Today, he simply said, "Orders logged, Commander." The conversation ended with Yexali making angry clicking sounds. On the human colony world of New Geneva, engineer Lisa Park was building a water treatment plant. The Nethrim Advisor, a floating cloud of green gas, hovered nearby. "Engineer Park, your design includes too many backup systems." The Nethrim voice spoke directly into Lisa's mind. "The primary pumps are sufficient. Secondary and tertiary systems are wasteful." Lisa continued welding a pipe connection. "The backup systems will be installed as designed. But why do you need 3 levels of redundancy? The primary systems have a 99.7% reliability rating. Adding more systems only increases maintenance costs and complexity." Lisa finished her weld and checked the connection. "The design meets all safety requirements. I am trying to help you build more efficiently. Your human tendency toward over-engineering creates unnecessary complications." Lisa moved to the next pipe joint. "The project timeline remains on schedule. The Nethrim cloud turned bright yellow. For 2 years, Lisa had always explained her engineering choices. She would show calculations and stress tests and failure analysis reports. She would explain how redundant systems saved lives when the unexpected happened. Not today. At the Federation Trade Center on Proxima Station, human merchant David Kim was negotiating with a group of alien buyers. They wanted to purchase human-made electronics that were somehow more reliable than similar alien products. "Mr. Kim, we need to understand your manufacturing process," said the Valdorian trade representative. "Our analysis shows your components use inferior materials, yet they outperform our premium products." David smiled politely. "Our products come with standard warranties and technical support. But what is your secret? How do you achieve such reliability with such simple materials? All products meet or exceed Federation quality standards." The aliens looked at each other with confusion. Human electronics were becoming famous throughout the galaxy. They worked in conditions that destroyed alien technology. They kept running when power fluctuated. They survived impacts and temperature changes that killed more sophisticated devices, but now humans would not. Explain how they made them. Dr. Amanda Foster worked at the Galactic Medical Research Institute. She had just published a paper on treating Zephyrian blood infections. Her treatment worked better than anything the Zephyrians had developed themselves. Dr. Thekaran, the head of Zephyrian Medical Research, called her into his office. "Dr. Foster, your treatment protocol is remarkable, but I cannot understand your reasoning. Why do you use 3 different medications when our analysis suggests 2 should be sufficient?" Amanda sat in the chair across from his desk. "The treatment protocol is available in the published paper." "Yes, but the paper only describes what you did, not why you chose those specific combinations. Our medical computers cannot replicate your logic pattern. The treatment has a 94% success rate in clinical trials." Dr. Thekaran's mandibles clicked in frustration. "Dr. Foster, we have worked together for 5 years. You always shared your reasoning before. Why do you refuse to explain your methods now?" Amanda stood up. "Is there anything else you need regarding the current research projects?" The same pattern was happening everywhere. Human scientists stopped explaining their theories. Human engineers stopped justifying their designs. Human soldiers stopped describing their tactics. Human merchants stopped revealing their methods. They remained polite. They followed all Federation laws. They completed their assigned tasks. But they no longer felt the need to educate alien species who called their methods primitive and wasteful. Aliens noticed the change, but they misunderstood what it meant. At a Zephyrian command meeting, officers discussed the new human behavior. "The humans are finally learning to follow proper procedures," said one commander. "They no longer waste time with their primitive explanations." "Yes," agreed another. "Perhaps our guidance has finally taught them to accept superior methods." The Valdorians held similar discussions. "Human stubbornness appears to be decreasing," their trade council reported. "They seem more willing to accept our authority." The Nethrim were pleased as well. Human defensiveness about their inferior methods has diminished, they broadcast to each other. Progress toward proper civilization continues. None of them realized that humans had not become more accepting. Humans had simply stopped trying to teach species that refused to learn. The Federation had spent 50 years calling human knowledge primitive. They had mocked human caution as paranoia. They had dismissed human experience as barbarism. So humans decided to keep their knowledge to themselves. The aliens celebrated this as victory. They believed they had finally civilized the violent humans. They thought humans were abandoning their wasteful ways and learning to trust Federation wisdom. They had no idea that humans were simply waiting for the day when the galaxy would discover why humans prepared for dangers that others could not imagine. That day was coming sooner than anyone expected. The first distress call came from the mining world of Vega 7. The message was short and filled with static. Unknown ships attacking. Need help. They don't respond to communication. They just destroy everything. Then the signal died. High Counselor. Zektar received the report in his crystal palace on Zarian Prime. He dismissed it with a wave of his forearms. Pirates, he told his aide. The peace drones will handle it. But the peace drones found nothing when they arrived at Vega 7. The planet was still there, but it was empty. No buildings. No people, no machines. Even the metal ore had been stripped. From the surface, it looked like someone had eaten everything made of matter and left only bare rock behind. The Federation Council met in emergency session. The great crystal hall buzzed with worried voices in dozens of alien languages. "This cannot be pirates," said Counselor Thexara. Her blue crystal body pulsed with nervous light. "Pirates take valuables and leave. These attackers took everything." The Nethrim representatives floated in agitated clouds of red and orange gas. "Our deep space sensors detected no ships in that sector. Whatever did this moved without being seen." Zektar tried to maintain order. "The peace drones will investigate further. This is an isolated incident." But it was not isolated that over the next month, 3 more worlds went silent. Each time, the peace drones found the same thing. Empty planets stripped of all manufactured materials. No survivors, no witnesses. No clues about who had done it. The Federation Council grew more worried with each report. These were not random attacks. The missing worlds formed a pattern, moving steadily toward the core systems where the major Federation planets were located. Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat in the human embassy on Zarian Prime. She received regular reports from human deep space scouts. Unlike the Federation, humans had not stopped exploring the dangerous outer regions of the galaxy. Their scouts had seen things that the peace drones missed. Her communicator buzzed. Captain Sarah Mitchell appeared on the screen. She commanded, "A human scout ship near the galactic rim." "Ambassador, we have contact with the hostiles," Captain Mitchell reported. Her face was grim. "We're calling them Devourers. They travel in swarms of black ships that seem to absorb energy instead of reflecting it. That's why sensors can't detect them easily." Elena leaned forward. "What do they want?" "Everything," Mitchell said. "They land on planets and release machines that break down all matter into basic elements. Then they consume it all. Metal, plastic, organic material, even processed stone. They eat planets and move on." "How many ships?" "Hundreds in each swarm, maybe thousands. They move fast and hit multiple targets at once." "Ambassador, they're heading for the core systems. They'll reach Valdorian space in 6 weeks." Elena closed the communication and sat in silence. She thought about all the time she had tried to warn the Federation Council about threats from deep space. All the times they had called her paranoid. All the times they had mocked human preparations for unknown dangers, that now the unknown had found them. The next council session was chaos. Representatives from 4 species demanded action. The Valdorians wanted more peace drones. The Zephyrians wanted better sensors. The Nethrim wanted evacuation plans. Zektar called for order. "The Federation Science Council is studying the problem. We will find a logical solution." "What about the humans?" asked a small voice from the back of the hall. It was Counselor Nexuela from the peaceful Altarian species. "The humans have ships with weapons. Maybe they can help." The hall fell silent. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Thexara's crystal body flashed angry red. "Human weapons are primitive. Their ships are old and slow. What can they do that our peace drones cannot?" Elena stood up from her small platform. "May I speak?" Zektar looked annoyed. "Very well, Ambassador. But be brief." Elena looked around the great hall. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at her with the same expressions she had seen for years: skepticism, dismissal, barely hidden contempt. "The human deep space scouts have been tracking these devourers for 3 months," she said. "We have detailed information about their ships, their tactics, and their technology." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the hall. "Impossible," said a Zephyrian commander. "Our sensors are far more advanced than human equipment. If these enemies exist, we would have detected them first." Elena smiled a small, cold smile. "Our scouts use different methods." "Methods you have called primitive and wasteful. What methods?" demanded Thexara. Elena looked directly at the crystal alien. "Experience." Before anyone could ask what that meant, alarms began sounding throughout the Crystal Palace. Emergency lights flashed in patterns that meant immediate danger. A Federation officer ran into the hall. "Counselors, long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures approaching the Proxima sector, hundreds of unknown ships moving at high speed." The Devourers had arrived. Panic spread through the Great Hall. Representatives shouted orders in their various languages. Some called for evacuation. Others demanded military response. The Nephrim began flashing through every color in their spectrum. Zektar's voice boomed over the chaos. "Contact the Peace Drone Fleet. Order them to intercept." "Already done, sir," the officer replied. "The drones are moving to engagement positions." Elena watched the chaos with calm eyes. She had seen humans panic before, during the early years of space exploration. But humans had learned to channel panic into action. These aliens were just running in circles. Her communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Catherine Ross, commander of the human fleet. "Elena, we're tracking the Devourer swarm. They'll reach Proxima Station in 18 hours. The peace drones won't be enough." "What do you need?" Elena asked. "Permission to engage." "And Elena?" "It's going to get ugly. These things don't fight like anything the Federation has ever seen." Elena looked up at the panicking aliens around her. For 50 years, humans had tried to explain why they prepared for the impossible. For 50 years, the aliens had refused to listen. Now the impossible was here. "Admiral," Elena said quietly, "you have permission to do whatever is necessary." The Findu Battle of Proxima began 16 hours later. The peace drones met the Devourer swarm at the edge of the solar system. The drones were elegant machines designed to stop civilized conflicts between rational species. Devourers were neither civilized nor rational. The enemy ships moved like a plague of insects. They swarmed around the peace drones, ignoring their stunning weapons and diplomatic broadcasts. Instead of fighting back, they simply began eating the drones. Black tendrils reached out from the Devourer ships and dissolved the peace drones piece by piece. Within 2 hours, the entire Federation defense fleet was gone. Then the human ships arrived. Admiral Ross led a formation of 20 human vessels. They looked old and clunky compared to sleek Federation designs. Their hulls were thick and covered with what appeared to be random equipment. The aliens watching from Proxima Station wondered what these primitive ships could do against enemies that had just destroyed the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. They were about to learn why humans had spent centuries preparing for wars they hoped would never come. The human ships spread out in a formation that looked chaotic to alien observers. They moved like they expected attack from every direction at once. When the Devourers swarmed toward them, the human ships did something no Federation vessel had ever done. They ran away, but it was not really running. It was something far more dangerous. Something humans called a fighting retreat. The human ships fell back in stages, always firing, always moving, never letting the Devourers surround them completely. And with each exchange, more Devourer ships went dark. The aliens watched in amazement as human tactics systematically destroyed an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. Every move the Devourers made, the humans had an answer for. Every attack pattern, every swarming technique, every consumption beam, the humans found ways to counter them all. By the end of the day, The Devourer swarm was broken and fleeing toward deep space. The Federation had been saved by the species. They called Primitive Dot as Admiral Ross's ships returned to Proxima Station. A communication request came from High Counselor Zektar himself. Alina answered the call in her embassy office. Zektar's image appeared on her screen. For the first time in 20 years, the proud Zephyrian looked humble. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said quietly, "the Federation Council requests a meeting with human military leaders. We need to understand how you achieved this victory." Elena looked at the alien who had spent decades dismissing human knowledge. She thought about all the years of explanations that had fallen on deaf ears, all the warnings that had been ignored, all the preparations that had been mocked. "Admiral Ross will provide a tactical summary," Alina said finally. "But, Counselor, some lessons can only be learned through experience." And for the first time in 50 years of Federation membership, Elena ended a conversation without explaining what she meant. The emergency session of the Federation Council was unlike any meeting in galactic history. Representatives from every member species packed the great Crystal Hall on Zarian Prime. The air buzzed with fear and desperation. 3 days had passed since the Battle of Proxima. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Devourer swarms were approaching 12 different star systems. Each swarm contained hundreds of the black ships that ate everything in their path. High Counselor Zektar stood before the assembly. His usual proud bearing was gone. His forearms trembled as he spoke. "Fellow beings of the Federation, we face extinction. Our peace drones cannot stop these devourers. Our ships cannot match their speed. Our weapons cannot penetrate their hulls." He paused and looked directly at Ambassador Elena Vasquez. "Only human forces have successfully engaged the enemy." Murmurs rippled through the hall. The same aliens who had mocked human military preparations now turned to humans for salvation. Alina sat on her small platform, watching the panic around her. She had requested this emergency session. She had something important to say. Counselor Zektar's crystal body pulsed with urgent blue light. "Ambassador Vasquez, the Valdorian Trade Consortium offers unlimited resources for human military expansion. We need more ships like Admiral Ross commanded." Alina stood slowly. "Building ships takes time. The Devourers will reach your core worlds in days, not months." A Nethrim representative floated forward, flashing desperate colors. "Then what do you suggest? How can we survive?" Elena looked around the great hall. Every alien eye focused on her with an intensity she had never seen before. These were not the dismissive stares of the past. These were the eyes of beings who suddenly realized they needed help. "Admiral Ross has developed a defense plan," Alina said. "It can work, but it requires complete cooperation from all Federation forces." Zektar leaned forward eagerly. "What does the plan require?" Elena's expression remained calm. 17 different human military doctrines working together. Some techniques involve strategies that the Federation banned as unnecessarily violent. The hall erupted in voices. Some aliens shouted approval. Others demanded details. A few protested about abandoning civilized warfare principles. Elena waited for silence. When the noise died down, she continued. "The plan requires unconventional tactics, deception operations, misdirection campaigns, false retreats designed to become devastating counterattacks." Counselor Zektar's light pulsed faster. "These methods sound primitive and disorganized. Surely there are more efficient approaches." Elena smiled coldly. "More efficient than the peace drones that were completely destroyed?" The crystal alien fell silent. A Zephyrian commander raised his voice. "Ambassador, we accept that human methods work against these devourers. But we need to understand the logic behind your tactics. Our military computers must analyze and optimize your strategies. Elena's smile faded. Admiral Ross will implement the plan. Federation forces will follow human command structure during the operation. The hall exploded again. Alien voices shouted in dozens of languages. The idea of following human military leadership was shocking to species that had considered themselves superior for centuries. Zektar called for order. Ambassador, surely you can explain the tactical details. We need to coordinate our forces effectively. Elena looked up at the towering Zephyrian. For 20 years she had stood in this hall trying to explain human methods to beings who refused to listen. Today felt different. Admiral Ross tried to explain our defensive preparations to this council 6 months ago, Elena said. The response was that human methods were wasteful and paranoid. But the situation has changed, protested a Valdorian representative. We understand now that your preparations were necessary. Elena nodded. Yes, the situation has changed. The question is whether your attitude has changed as well. Heavy silence fell over the great hall. Elena let it stretch for long moments before continuing. For 50 years, humans have shared our knowledge with the Federation. We explained our science, our engineering, our military thinking. We answered every question and justified every choice. She paused. The response was always the same: primitive, inefficient, barbaric. Zektar's mandibles clicked nervously. Ambassador, we may have been too quick to judge human methods. But now we need those methods to survive. Elena's voice remained steady. Dr. Sarah Chun offered to teach Valdorian scientists her biological research techniques. She was told her methods were unscientific guesswork. Dexara's crystal body dimmed. She remembered dismissing the human scientist. Captain Torres explained human convoy protection tactics to Zephyrian commanders, Elena continued. He was told his formations were wasteful and showed paranoid thinking. The Zephyrian military representative shifted uncomfortably. Engineer. Lisa Park tried to share redundant system designs with Nethrim advisors. She was told human over-engineering created unnecessary complications. The floating gas clouds changed to subdued gray colors. Elena looked around the hall once more. For 50 years, you mocked our patience. You dismissed our experience. You called our wisdom primitive. Her voice grew harder. Now you want us to explain ourselves again. Zektar stepped forward. Ambassador, we admit our mistakes. We underestimated human knowledge. But millions of lives depend on stopping these devourers. Surely you will help us. Elena was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her words echoed through the silent hall. Admiral Ross will stop the devourers. Human ships will coordinate the defense. Human tactics will save Federation. Worlds, she paused, but we will not explain how. Angry voices erupted across the hall. Aliens demanded detailed battle plans. They insisted on understanding human methods. They offered payments and treaties in exchange for military knowledge. Elena waited for the noise to die down. Then she delivered the words that would change the galaxy forever. High Counselor Zektar, you once told me that humanity clings to barbarism like children to warm blankets. You said the Federation should reconsider our membership. Elena's voice carried clearly through the vast hall. Today, I am here to tell you that the Federation has a choice. You can trust our methods, or you can face the devourers alone. The silence that followed was absolute. Every being in the Great Hall understood what they were hearing. After 50 years of patient explanation, humanity was no longer willing to justify their actions to species that had refused to learn. Zektar's voice was barely a whisper. What do you want from us? Elena's answer was simple. Complete tactical authority. For Admiral Ross, no questions about methods. No demands for explanations. No interference with human command decisions. And if we refuse? Asked Exara. Elena looked directly at the crystal alien. Then you will discover why humans prepared for dangers you could not imagine. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in Federation history, an alien species would have complete military command over all Federation forces. But the cost was more than ships and soldiers. The cost was the end of alien assumptions about human inferiority. Admiral Catherine Ross received her orders within the hour. She now commanded the largest military force in galactic history. Thousands of alien ships waited for her commands. The aliens wanted to know her plans. They wanted to understand her strategies. They wanted detailed explanations of every tactical decision. Admiral Ross gave them a single response that became famous throughout the galaxy. You will know my plans when you need to know them. Until then, follow orders and stay alive. The battle for the Federation was about to begin. And for the first time in 50 years, humans would fight it their way. The aliens were about to learn what it meant when humans stopped explaining themselves and started showing what they could do. Admiral Catherine Ross stood on the bridge of the human flagship UE's Defiance. Around her, screens showed the largest space battle in galactic history about to begin. 12 devourer swarms were approaching Federation core worlds. Each swarm contained over 1,000 of the black ships that consumed everything in their path. The combined Federation fleet stretched across 3 star systems. Zephyrian warships with their gleaming hulls. Valdorian crystal vessels that sparkled like jewels. Nethran cloud ships that shifted shape as they moved. Ships from dozens of species, all waiting for orders from a human admiral. Admiral Ross opened communications to the entire fleet. Her voice reached every ship and every being in the Armada. All vessels, this is Admiral Ross. In 2 hours we will engage multiple devourer swarms simultaneously. You will receive orders that may seem strange or wasteful. You will not understand the reasoning behind these orders. Follow them anyway. She paused, looking at the tactical display. These enemies do not fight like civilized beings. They cannot be reasoned with or negotiated with. They exist only to consume. To defeat them, we must think like predators, not diplomats. Complaints immediately flooded the communication channels. Alien commanders demanded explanations. They wanted to know the strategic logic. They insisted on understanding the battle plan. Admiral Ross cut off all incoming messages. Communication discipline will be maintained. Questions waste time we do not have. Orders will be followed without discussion. The first devourer swarm reached the outer system of Zarian Prime. Long-range sensors showed nearly 1,500 of the black ships moving in perfect formation toward the crystal world. Admiral Ross smiled coldly. Perfect formation was exactly what she had hoped for. Battle Group Alpha, execute Maneuver 7, she ordered. The alien commanders had no idea what Maneuver 7 meant, but they watched in confusion as human ships began what appeared to be a complete retreat. The human vessels turned away from the approaching devourers and accelerated toward empty space. Panic spread through the Federation fleet. Zephyrian commanders clicked their mandibles in distress. Valdorian captains flashed angry red lights. The Nethran changed to colors that meant betrayal and abandonment. Admiral Ross came an urgent call from a Zephyrian cruiser. You are abandoning the defense. The devourers will reach Zarian Prime uncontested. Admiral Ross ignored the message. On her tactical screen, she watched the devourer swarm pursue her fleeing ships. The enemy formation stretched out as faster ships pulled ahead of slower ones. Their perfect order began to dissolve. Battle Group Beta, prepare for flanking maneuver. Ross ordered calmly, hidden behind asteroid fields and gas clouds. Federation ships waited in positions that made no sense to their commanders. They had been placed there hours earlier by human officers who refused to explain their reasoning. The devourer swarm chased Admiral Ross's ships deeper into the system. Their formation continued to spread out as individual ships raced to catch the fleeing humans. "Now," Admiral Ross said quietly. Battle Group Beta erupted from concealment. Hundreds of Federation ships struck the stretched Devourer formation from both sides. The enemy had expected to chase fleeing prey. Instead, they found themselves surrounded and under attack from multiple directions. But Admiral Ross was not finished. Battle Group Alpha, execute reversal attack. The human ships that had been fleeing suddenly turned around. They charged back toward the Devourers with weapons blazing. The enemy found themselves caught between two forces with nowhere to run. Within an hour, the first Devourer swarm was completely destroyed. The alien commanders were stunned. They had watched humans use deception and misdirection to turn a hopeless battle into total victory. The tactics looked chaotic and primitive to their eyes, but the results spoke for themselves. Similar battles raged across 11 other star systems. In each case, human commanders led Federation forces using strategies that seemed impossible to understand. At the Valdorian homeworld, Captain Torres used a tactic humans called the Hammer and Anvil. He positioned alien ships like a solid wall in the path of the advancing Devourers. Then he brought human ships around behind the enemy like a moving hammer. The Devourers were crushed between the two forces. At the Nethrim colonies, Commander Chun employed what humans called divide and conquer. She split her fleet into small groups that appeared vulnerable. When the Devourers divided their own forces to attack these groups, they found that the scattered human ships could communicate and coordinate in ways the enemy could not predict. At the Zephyrian military stations, Admiral Park used the oldest human strategy of all, the fighting retreat. Her ships fell back from position to position, always inflicting damage, always making the enemy pay for every advance. By the time the Devourers reached their target, half their fleet was gone and the rest was too damaged to fight effectively. The aliens watched these battles with growing amazement. Every human tactic violated the principles of civilized warfare they had learned. There was deception where there should be honesty. There was retreat where there should be courage. There was unpredictability where there should be logical planning. And yet every human strategy worked perfectly. The 12 Devourer swarms were destroyed in less than 6 hours. Not a single Federation world was lost. The enemy that had seemed unstoppable was driven from the galaxy by tactics that alien commanders called primitive and wasteful. When the last Devourer ship disappeared into deep space, silence fell across the Federation fleet. Thousands of alien beings tried to understand what they had just witnessed. Admiral Ross opened communications one final time. All Federation vessels, return to your home bases. Mission complete. Immediately, requests flooded in from every ship in the fleet. Alien commanders wanted to know how the tactics worked. They begged for explanations of human strategy. They offered to trade technology and resources for military knowledge. Admiral Ross listened to the desperate pleas for a few moments. Then she gave the response that would be remembered throughout galactic history. Some lessons can only be earned through experience. Build your own. The communication ended. Human ships began their journey back to Earth. The aliens were left to contemplate what had happened. For 50 years they had called human methods primitive. They had mocked human preparations for impossible dangers. They had dismissed human knowledge as barbaric thinking. Now they understood the truth. Humans had not been paranoid, they had been experienced. They had not been primitive, they had been prepared. They had not been wasteful, they had been wise. 6 months later, Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through the rebuilt Federation Council. Chambers on Zarian Prime, the Great Crystal Hall, looked the same as always. But the atmosphere was completely different. When she spoke, alien representatives listened with respect instead of contempt. When she made suggestions, they were implemented without argument. When she explained human positions, aliens took careful notes instead of dismissing her words. Near the entrance to the Great Hall, a new plaque had been installed. It was written in the languages of every Federation species. The words were simple, in memory of those lost to the devourers, and in gratitude to those who prepare for what others cannot imagine. Elena paused to read the plaque every time she entered the hall. It reminded her of the long journey from mockery to respect. It reminded her of the price of wisdom and the value of patience. But most importantly, it reminded her that some lessons could only be learned the hard way. The galaxy had learned to listen when humans spoke. But more importantly, the galaxy had learned to trust when humans chose to remain silent. After 50 years of explaining themselves, humans had finally earned the right to let their actions speak louder than their words, and the galaxy was a safer place because of it.